The murder of George Floyd has outraged our nation. We saw racial terrorism put its knee on his neck, and we were shocked. Normally, racism creeps around within the systems and policies of our nation like dry rot. But when it becomes so apparent, we're stunned. If you're a black person, you see it every day. George Floyd was killed on Monday. Violent protests have now moved across the country, and last night, Lincoln itself was in flames. Church, as your pastor, I need you to hold some complex tensions in your heart and your mind right now. You see, whenever violence breaks out, it's good and natural for us to voice support for the police and law and order. But at the same time, we have to hold that the violence is reacting to a deep injustice, and this is a complex tension. I need you to hold those tensions in your heart and mind and not seek too easy of a resolution. There'll be competing storylines right now. You'll hear stories about how it's mostly just young teenagers who've been locked up in the pandemic and have no work and nothing to do, or it's anarchists. You'll hear these stories, but hold this complex tension. It's also people who are acting against a profound injustice, the racism that pervades America. I need you to hold these complex tensions, not try to resolve them too quickly. Don't let this struggle get caught up in the typical political discourse of our country. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you can join the struggle against racism. I need you to hold these tensions in your heart. When violence has broken out like it has, we want to just get beyond it. But there's a struggle here, the struggle against racism, that will have to continue. This will be a long journey. I need you to hold all of that in your heart and mind. So another person was killed just because of the color of his skin. This has been an injustice that has haunted America from its very origins. 2,000 years ago, there was a person of color killed by a police state. There were thousands of young Palestinian males being killed by the Roman Empire in acts of state terrorism. Their lives didn't matter. And when George Floyd called out for his mother, how could we not hear Jesus himself calling for his parent from the cross, feeling forsaken? My friends, we kill the Christ again and again. I need us to take hold of the very essence of our faith on this hard morning. I need us to go right to the core of what Christianity is about. Racism is a horrible depersonalization. Christianity is a radical personalism. Let me say this again. Racism is depersonalization. The Christian faith is to be a personalism. Let me explain. At the very center of the Christian faith is the supreme value of persons, the belief that the core miracle of God's creation is persons. and that each and every person, for everyone born, they are of infinite worth and dignity. That each and every person can never be treated as a mere object, but as a full subject and is worthy of the ultimate respect and dignity. They are of intrinsic value as a child of God, as the very image of God, imago Dei. To desecrate a human being is to blaspheme God. This is at the very center of the Christian faith. Racism depersonalizes, sees just a color or sees an object to be moved around in power plays. Don't let racism, this core sin, corrode the very center of our faith. Each person of infinite value. So too, at the center of our faith is a gentleness or a nonviolence. We see it testified to in the New Testament. Jesus was completely nonviolent. He wouldn't even self-defend. At the very center of the Christian faith is nonviolence, because violence sees people as objects. Violence does whatever it needs in its purpose to human beings. Christianity at its core is a type of gentleness. We need to reclaim the center of the faith this morning. Pentecost is often called the birthday of the church. In our imaginative reading of Acts chapter 2, where Jesus has ascended and then the Holy Spirit comes upon the disciples, brings them together as beloved community where they can hear each other and understand each other across lines, and then propels a movement through the ages. That's seen as the very genesis of the Christian faith of the church. And oh, what a journey from a ragtag group of peasants and fishermen and a group of women, tax collectors. From that very small ragtag group in the far hinterland of the world, Christianity became a movement that became the largest religion in the world. 2.3 billion Christians in all countries, all colors and ethnicities and perspectives. What an amazing journey it was. It began when Paul of Tarsus planted those churches around the rim of the Mediterranean. No, not just Paul, but also Phoebe and Priscilla and Timothy and Barnabas. You see, it's never one person. It's always a group, a team. It's never just men. Anything worthwhile always includes women. They plant these house churches, and the faith begins to take hold of hearts and minds and families. But then we become a persecuted faith, an illegal religion as the state comes in. And then, over the years, the faith, the core beauty of the faith takes hold. It begins to infiltrate into even the highest echelons of society until the Roman emperor himself converts to Christianity and decrees the entire realm to be Christian. But religion, true religion, doesn't function by decree, but by desire, not by fiat, but by faith, not by declaration, but inspiration. And that core inspiration of the faith, it's love, it's justice, it's peace. It moved and continued to move among individual hearts and families and communities. Still, something in the faith has always had the tendency to align itself with power and institutions. As we move into the Middle Ages, the Christian faith aligned itself deeply with kings and governments. And we can lose the very essence of what Christianity is about. But the Spirit of this movement keeps grabbing individual minds and families. The real faith happens on the ground level when a grandmother shares stories about Jesus to a grandchild, when a family says prayer, when a community rallies around the core ethics of the faith. And now, It's become the world's largest religion, 40,000 different denominations. It's not a monolith, it's a radical diversity. And in that radical diversity, it can hold the truth. Today, we need a new Pentecost. For you see, the church in America, it's been so long stained by racism. My friends, there is a type of white supremacy that has infiltrated Christianity in America. We need a new Pentecost, a Pentecost of counting the cost of that type of racism that can subtly pervert what the true faith is about. We need a new Pentecost today. We need the Holy Spirit to come again. And the Holy Spirit, it always brings a greater sense of equity. You know it's the Holy Spirit when it brings an equity and a justice. We need a new Pentecost. Come, Holy Spirit, together, church. Let's reclaim the core essence of the love and justice that is our church, and let's make justice in the wider world together. There's a song we've shared often at First-Plymouth. This song has become a beloved anthem of this church. Why? Because it speaks to that dignity and worth of everyone born. Everyone.